Hi, today I'm talking about the EU flight delay compensation, and what I'm talking about is in relation to a claim against the airline Air India and whether or not you can make a claim. Well, yes, you can. The only difference is because Air India is a non-EU operated airline, you'll only be able to make a claim against them for flights that are delayed, that are departed from the UK, or of course any EU airport. So where you've flown with Air India and that flight departed from the UK and then the arrival time was more than 3 hours over the scheduled arrival time, then there is a possibility that you can make a claim. And the arrival time is deemed when, in this case, Air India open the doors of that aircraft at the destination airport, not when they land on the tarmac. In addition to that, it's got to be the fault of Air India, and that's only fair. So it wouldn't be their fault if, for example, there was political unrest, a bird strike. Strike of the staff actually is not the fault of the airline. And of course, bad weather, fog bound, snow problems, hurricanes or cyclones going down that where they tend to fly to in that part of the world. Those wouldn't be their fault. However, staff illnesses or crew being late or a technical difficulty with the aircraft, the airline has a duty of care to its passengers, and it has a duty of care to put in place things that will actually support the aircraft and the problems that could happen. So they need to have a backup plan so that if crew don't turn up, that they've got a backup crew on standby waiting to step in, and most airlines have that in place. So that would be deemed to be their fault if that was the reason or the cause of the delay, and that's fair. That's only fair. The final thing that will affect the amount of compensation you would get from Air India is, of course, the distance travelled. Now, bearing in mind most flights on Air India from the UK will be probably to the higher end of the distance travelled. And how that affects the compensation. So you're probably more likely to be entitled to the higher amounts. And these range anything from €250 at the lower end of the scale right the way through to €600, or in today's terms around about £540. And that's per person. So if there's two passengers or people within your that are flying together on that Air India flight, then you would both be entitled to a claim. Of course, you can put one claim in for the two of you that are in your party. To make the claim, you'll need to write to Air India, and you'll need to support that claim with, for example, a boarding pass or some electronic information to show that you were on that aircraft and detail the delay that actually happened. The other alternative is you can get someone to do the claim for you. So if you're not someone that likes to write letters, you don't want the hassle, or you want it done, you're maybe a very busy person, you don't have the time, then you can use the services of of a company. There is a link below, of course, to a company that we would recommend, and that company operates on a no-win, no-fee basis. Now, the fact that it's a no-win, no-fee, they only get paid when there's success and when you get paid. Of course, they're not a charity, so therefore they do have to make their money. So of course your compensation will be reduced by the amount that they charge. But of course the service is there and you can make that choice. So if you have a claim, and bearing in mind this applies going back 6 years, so it may be that you've only just become aware of this particular legislation and you had a delayed flight 12 months ago, 2 years ago, whatever it happens to be, up to 6 years ago, you can go back and make that claim. But of course you'll need to provide evidence, you'll need to discover the information to actually provide to the airline. And this is sometimes where a professional company that's got a legal department could come in and help you with that. Certainly flights that are more than a few weeks or a few months old, because the information you have may become a bit more sketchy. But anyway, the choice is yours. It's quite easy for you to make that claim, but if of course you want someone else to do it for you, there's that option too. If you have any questions on what I've just talked about or anything on flight delay compensation, pop them below and I'll be more than happy to answer those for you. Thank you very much for listening.